our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the line, this is your song.
Hey, welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns. It is episode 841. So Mondays on the show, we typically talk about behind the scenes, the nuts and bolts, what it's like to create content. Tuesdays, we'll talk about Second Amendment, 2A Tuesdays. Wednesdays, entertainment. Thursdays, other stuff. And then Fridays is looking back at the week, and then industry and tech. So with that, we got some people joining us from across the country. We've got Clover Tech jumping in from Texas. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the invite.
Okay, really loud. And then we got Cycle Camp just jumped in from Connecticut. Thanks for joining.
Hi, folks. How you doing?
And then Gary jumping in from Kansas.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
You bet. I'm down here in Arizona, and we're chatting about guns. So we got some other invites out there. We'll see if other people show up tonight. And we talked behind the scenes. I know Clover was just doing his Patreon chat. So Patreon is a way that people can follow someone and support them financially if you want to be part of the creation of content or art or all kinds of different things get created on Patreon, but ongoing things. Sorry, I had to cough there. Ongoing things. So if you're going to contribute to a writer, you'll be seeing more and more chapters, or if it's a blog or something, you'll see more and more posts get posted up there, or if it's a podcast, more episodes and so forth, unlike maybe a crowdfunding thing, which accomplishes a specific project or something. So anyway, one of the things that Clover does for his Patreons, people that support him over there, is does a show, monthly, I guess? And you were talking about doing something in that show earlier. What do you want to chat about?
Yeah, we do the private chat every third Monday. Third Monday. Yeah, all of our special shows happen on Mondays. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it being tech here on DGS, I run into something kind of weird today, YouTube related, but clicked over and actually it wasn't intentionally looking for this. It's something that caught my eye, and then I started diving into the analytics and looking at things a little further. So, there's been a lot of talk about the issue with between Crowder and Carlos Maza, or whoever it was, and that whole ordeal. And I don't want to get into that, but it's worth mentioning because I think that maybe this is where some of this is stemming from. But I had, actually boasted a little while ago about having 900 and something videos and only like 30 of them or something being ad restricted, which is the yellow icon. And so I didn't have a few days ago when I was in there editing, poking through videos and looking at some stuff and editing. I know this has changed, but in the last few days, there's like 6 or something, or maybe even more, videos that I've got fairly recent, some stuff that hasn't even been released publicly yet, that are ad restricted. And so I thought, okay, wow, this is weird. So it was sorted in my Creator Studio. Everything was sorted by date, so the newest one showed up first or whatever, right? But there's an option in there where you can sort those by limited or no ads. So I went to that and I sorted my stuff by limited or no ads. Well, when I do, the 6 or so that have turned yellow recently don't show up on that list. I thought, okay, well, this is kind of screwy. You know what I mean? It's like they're yellow on one page, but then when I sort by that, they don't even show up on the other. And I'm like, so that sort of played into my theory that people want to play YouTube is defunding us, YouTube is demonetizing, ad restricting, all this other stuff we hear. And I've thought for a long time that's been going on. There was just no visual representation of it. And so that kind of plays into this, that if there's inconsistencies between one page of your studio and another page of their studio, that maybe it's just really always been like that, and they don't even, as far as YouTube is concerned, that's just something for our benefit. And if it works, fine, and if it don't, whatever. It's like they don't care. But even more interestingly than that, because I started diving into it a little deeper, and this month, one of my top performing videos actually is, I don't think it's always been this way, but, well, in fact, I know it hasn't always been ad restricted, but my top performing video for this 28-day cycle is ad restricted. So I started diving into the analytics, and I go look at my ad rate. And most people are getting, they say, well, with Adpocalypse and all this other stuff, I mean, $1, $2, 1,000, something like that. So I go and I look, and I'm getting nearly $6 1,000. And I'm like, holy crap. What, it used to be like $3 and something 1,000, which I thought was extremely good. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm getting nearly $6 1,000 here. But yet, so my ad rate is good, but yet they're flagging and not demonetizing, but ad restricting stuff with me having a good ad rate. Like that doesn't make any sense. So then I go and I look, and I'm thinking, okay, well, it's limited or no ads, it's ad restricted, all this other stuff. So then I actually dive into the numbers on that video, and I'm actually getting nearly $6, my CPM or whatever. Or they don't call it a CPM. There's CPM and there's another one, and I don't have it in front of me. I'm on mobile. But I actually did the math on it. And so I'm getting my full ad rate on that particular video. And so I tell that whole story to ask a question. And my question is, what's up? Is YouTube just completely screwed up as far as the data it gives us? Do they even know what's going on? It's crazy.
I know I've went to my subscribers page, and you know how it'll have the button that says subscribe, subscribe, subscribed. And then the ones you're not subscribed to will say subscribe. And I know good and well I'm subscribed to those channels, so I'll click on them to display the channel page, and it shows I'm subscribed. So for some reason, that page is not rendering correctly. So I know there's problems with their data at times.
Now that's a whole other ball of wax that's interesting, Gary. So are you able to click on that first page that it's showing?
You mean for each the channels?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On the first one, the one that's showing up wrong.
Yeah. And
so if you click on that, does it unsubscribe on the real page, or have you tried that?
No, I've tried clicking it, and it'll show you're subscribed, although in fact I was already subscribed to that channel, because I've had people tell me, well, I thought you were already subscribed. And I was, but I was erroneously going, and then I'd go back and pull the same page up, and it'd show them not subscribed again. So I know good and well there's something wrong with their data.
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, I know how you deal with databases and membership systems of some size, and I know how big they must be, both like as a company, I think, and then as a user base, which I can't even imagine. And just to think about when you do something, how quickly it can populate a database and then be reclaimed by everything. CycleCam might have more insight into that. Like, that isn't just magic. I mean, that still takes cycles and stuff, right? Like, that stuff's got to be cached. In other words, like, there's got to be ways where, you know, it's going to take a certain amount of time for a piece of new data to disseminate. And because somebody might, you know, someone's user habit is to fiddle around with their control panel, they might wait 3 minutes before they update everything. Otherwise, they'd just be wasting massive resources every time somebody changed their mind on what they want their username to be.
Well, that is true. The larger the database and the more referential integrity hooks you have into other tables on the database, there is a perceptible delay between, you know, when that stuff's going to come out. But usually it's transactional systems that act that way, not systems that are for operational control. Operational control systems are usually pretty quick. But, you know, I mean, you could always just take the what do you call it? My brain is shot today. The conspiracy theory, and just say they purposely screw up all the screens on you because they don't want you to know what's going on.
But if you think about, you could sub and you could unsub. So there's all these users, and then there's all these other users, and you can be subbed or unsubbed, and then they're going to put something in your account that says you're subbed and something in their account that says you're subbed, I would think. And every time you click and unclick that button, it changes both of your accounts. So if you're in there fiddling with it, it doesn't do them any good to have potentially the entire rest of the world refreshing their screen to see what your status is with subbing and unsubbing. I just think it would kill, like,
yeah, it doesn't typically work that way. What will happen is they'll have what's called a relator table, and they'll have the subee and the subber in that table. And when you click that sub button, it adds one entry to that table. Then when you say, give me the list of the people or show me the count of people subbed to me, it runs that one list, and it just goes on one side or the other looking for either your name or their name.
Well, okay. So then again, that's just different.
It's pretty quick
way to do it. But I'm just saying, like, with the amount of data that are users that they've got, and with the amount of potential you could be clicking on and off a sub button, or, you know, who, like, where we're talking about a sub specifically. So,
oh yeah, the transaction rate on a database must be enormous.
I'm just saying, like, at some point they don't try to display everything because it's not possible, and then at some other rate they must do some kind of math on, like, how actually important is it that your sub rate is current, at least at what level. Like, again, you're talking about on this page, it displays my sub count or who my sub relationship with somebody, but that's 3 pages away, or at least 2 pages away from actually being on their channel. So I'm just saying, like, just my little knowledge of how these things are actually put together, just the size of Google and stuff, like, at some point, if there's this, like, complete way of doing it, because their stuff covers the planet, they just have to have some gaps in there, and gaps in time, really. Like, you know, they would waste their time trying to make it so that somebody in Bangladesh could see if Gary's subbed or not, you know, immediately after he actually clicked the button. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, and then think about this too in terms of the database, even what CycleCamp was talking about there. But think about the monkey wrench that's thrown into that when you talk about purging users, which we know that these platforms do on a daily basis by the potentially millions, right?
Yeah, well, that's a whole other thing, yeah.
And stuff like that will actually happen on a delayed basis. So what they'll do is they'll set a flag that says, this is something that should be purged, and then they'll have some process that runs in the off hours that unstrings all that stuff and gets rid of it all. And that's where, when you have these huge referential databases, you know, it takes an appreciable amount of horsepower to say, well, if I get rid of you, but you're referenced on 35 other tables, I've got to keep all that shit in sync. And you're not doing that stuff on the fly. So you'll set a flag that says, okay, we're going to demonetize this the next time the demonetizer daemon runs. and at some periodic basis, like you were talking about, that demon will run and go through and post all of that shit, whether it's twice a day or hourly or whatever. Because you just couldn't afford, like you said, you couldn't afford to do all that shit in real time.
I mean,
There's
like,
some things
not with
there's
that.
some things you have to just push off to the side and say, I'll do that later. Housekeeping.
They're just not that important, exactly. So, anyhow, we're talking about splitting hairs on something that's barely that big an issue. I'm just saying, I don't think that all these things are the boogeyman. I think that we're talking about a massive, massive system, and we get real used to it working as impressively as it does. And I don't know, but whatever. I think that's a lot of when we see these little weird glitches, like what you're talking about being subbed and stuff. I can just see that as being like 2 or 3 steps away from something that they want to keep, that it's worth keeping relevant. And there might be something about, I don't know, would you think that if a system like YouTube was paying attention and somebody like Gary uses YouTube once a day, but then there's somebody else who uses YouTube once an hour, and then there's somebody else who uses YouTube once a week, don't you think that a system as big and been around as long as YouTube is paying different attention to each of those people and potentially giving them a different user experience because of how often they use the platform? I mean, I would think that you'd give the person who's there every day, every hour, a different user experience than somebody who's there rarely.
I think so, but I think that but I think that's probably yeah, I think they do, and I think that's the reason that I say that I think they do is because of the way the user experience is set up. It pulls off of your cookies and your history and your watch habits, right, and all of that stuff. And so I think the more that you're on the platform, the more that it's able to learn from the viewer side anyway. Which is totally different than the creator side, which is kind of what we were talking about when we started. Yeah, I think that it does. I think that it's. I don't know that it's. I think it's more of a passive algorithmic style system that it's able to learn that user's behavior because there's more. That user is on more, so therefore it's putting more input into the process.
Yeah, I'd need a better understanding of how they have their databases set up to answer that question, because I mean, databases are kind of like the big, huge volume, high transaction rate databases are like computer cache. The stuff that's the most active is within a very short reach because it's local in cache. Even things like big SQL Server databases and Oracle databases and shit, they cache things as well. And if you're highly active, if you're highly active in those tables, your data is going to be right there in storage. It's not even going to be on the disk. It's going to be sitting around in pages of memory, high speed access stuff. So you might find that things that you do show up quicker than things that other people do. So it's certainly possible, but that wouldn't be it's not so much a preferencing of you. It's really just a database design attribute. These kinds of things happen the way they happen because you're dealing with, hundreds of millions of records, an hour, and you just can't keep up otherwise. That's all part of the fun,
Mm-hmm.
And we ran into these problems when I worked for the insurance company, and we were doing calls. I was doing call center management at the end. Though during my lifetime, I worked all over the place. I mean, I've done a lot of different things, all on big monstrous mainframes and stuff. And these are the kind of trade-offs you had to make. When you did design it, and it was a lot of fun. But it was, you could rip your hair out all the time. I see. I'm more concerned with the reports of people saying, "Hey, I add a new video, and I know, there's been a few guys on the Bill Whittle page is like this. And I think Prager also did this. They said, we know how many people are subscribed and have pushed the bell, and when we put something new, they run their own internal surveys in the background, like with email and stuff, and they say only like 6% of the people that are signed up are actually getting notified. And that's the stuff that's got to scare you, because if they demonetize you, or they put you in ad jail or whatever, you find out about that pretty quick as a creator. But
Right.
if you're depending on that stuff under the covers that says, when I put a new video up, all my 100,000 subscribers that have the bell pushed are going to get notified about that new video, that you got a real problem, because you're not reaching the audience that the platform promised you were going to reach. That's their promise. If they push that bell when you add content, they're going to hear about that content. That's part of the deal. And if it's not happening, then that's and there seems to be quite a few guys complaining about that now. So I don't know, but it could just be a system issue. It could be a programming problem that they're having. Not all. What's the expression? The first time is a fluke. The second is coincidence, and the third is enemy action.
Mhm.
So you have to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt on some of this stuff.
Well, with the massive amount of users that they've got, I mean, just think about the undertaking, with what you were talking about with all the databases and being able to push stuff out and disseminate and do all this other stuff that, you've got, I don't remember now, 400 hours of video uploaded every minute or something like that. So, I mean, think of the number of notifications and stuff that they're having to push out every second, right? I mean, it's just massive freaking number. So it makes you wonder if, it's not some type of, if it's a resource management issue more than anything, because you're right. Everybody across every niche and genre complain about the whole notification system. But I will say this too, that I have run into people. This all started where it was a sub issue. Now it's a bail issue, this, that, and the other. Well, people would sub a channel, and then this was before the whole bail thing and before you could customize your notifications. And I know people. I've seen screenshots and different things. We never talked to anybody, I don't think personally, that has said this, but I've certainly seen screenshots of it where people would click to subscribe to a channel and then get upset because they're getting notifications for the content on the channel. And so they instituted the bail system. And I don't know, I'm not going to put words in their mouth and say that they did that to alleviate that situation. I don't know the ultimate reason why they did it, but they instituted the bail system. And I've seen screenshots and things even on the bail system that people, they'll click the bail and then they'll complain that they're getting too many notifications. It's like people want, and you're going to get people that are going to complain about anything. I mean, you give them, you can hand them a $20 bill and they're upset because you didn't hand them a $100 bill. So I get that. But you've got a situation where there's a lot of people out there that what they want is they want that automation. They want a situation to where they only get the notifications for the stuff that is seemingly most important to them because that's what they consume the most. Well, the problem with that, where the problem with that comes in is when you've got creators out there that are doing good work. And I mean, look at some of the creators. I mean, it's particularly if you get outside the firearm niche, that you've got some creators that, they might only put out 1 or 2 videos a month because they're so high quality. They're documentary stuff, really high quality, take a lot of production time for them to do. And with the way the algorithm is wanting to predetermine and customize everybody's notifications more or less for them nowadays, then you've got a situation to where there's so much going on that those people that don't upload very regularly seemingly fall off the map. And then you get a situation like you're talking about where, you know, you can, through your email lists and your text list and your other things, you can see that, well, wait a minute, they're not, you know, I know for a fact they're not sending out but a small percentage or there's not but a small percentage of my subscribers actually getting the notification.
So let me
Yeah,
take
and
that.
I don't even use it that way. So a lot of that, I push the bell every time I subscribe to a new channel, but I'm subscribed to like 50 or 60 channels. And what I end up doing is I end up going to the subscriptions bar, and then I just go in and tag the stuff into watch later that I actually want to see, because I can't watch. You know, no offense, Midnight Range, but I can't watch a 3-hour Midnight Range. I just don't have that kind of time. If it's going on and I fall into it, that's great. But it's not something when I'm going to watch. And usually it's about an hour. That's my limit. If something goes, and 30 is even kind of, you know, I'm more a dribs and drabs kind of guy. I was really glad when GWeb started putting out the excerpts. Like I there's no way I was going to watch that whole, you know, hour and a half or whatever it was of what happened after NRA AM, the members meeting, but the particular ones that I'm interested that you made into those 5 and 10 minute clips, I've been going through those.
Yeah, there's like 30 of those. They'll be coming out for 10 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, and but I think that's a great way to do it. I really like that. But you know, to get back on topic is the, you know, I had so much trouble trying to, I tried to manage the notifications, and even that wasn't a fine enough, you know, it was a garden hose. I mean, it was a fire hose. I was just getting all these freaking notifications anytime anybody blew his nose, and you get the thing that I really didn't care for was you get notifications when other people like things and stuff, and I said, no, I don't need that. So I can understand that they must be generating a huge amount of transactions trying to keep that stuff current, and it's a very difficult proposition.
Pivot.
I was going to pivot to a new topic, and then I can't remember what the hell the topic is now.
Always have more than one.
Well, I should have wrote it down. I usually write it down in notes as we're chatting here. I'll write it in the intern.
All right.
Yeah, you set the pick, and then you say, why the hell am I standing here again?
Anyway, so man, it was something. Well, I'll try to not think of it, and then I'll think of it. So I found this comic somewhere, and I want to know what everybody's opinion is of it. I'm screen sharing it. Can you see it?
Oh, let's see here. Okay.
So I think it's from Pakistan, if that makes any difference.
That's interesting.
But I don't get it. So does anybody care to wager what they're trying to talk about here? What's the deal? I mean, I know what it is, but I don't know what it's trying to say. I don't know what they're trying to get across is the point here.
Right. Well, somebody obviously doesn't want justice to be blind for some reason. So is it satire? Is it satirical?
That's what I'm saying. I don't get it. Like, all right, so anyway, I don't know. Anybody got any ideas? I really don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yes, they are satirizing the fact that Muslim men force their women to cover themselves up, yet they want us to act differently. And of course they don't want us to really act differently. I think that's the whole point.
See, but you're saying, so you think there's something in this that they're using there's something about the Muslim head thing and justice is both the same thing? Like they're both covering their face?
Yes, that they're covering the face on one hand, but they're saying uncover the face on the other hand.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
makes no sense at all.
Right, like they're saying, oh, you guys are okay with Liberty being blind, but you don't like our headscarves or whatever.
Hijab.
Right. But I mean, I thought that's what it must be, but then I'm like, except this isn't mask, this is blindfold. It's not supposed to mask you, it's supposed to keep you from seeing. This is supposed to mask you, not keep you from seeing. So this isn't because Liberty is anonymous. This is because she's not allowed to. She's supposed to be impartial, right?
I think it's a reach though. It's not the greatest cartoon either.
That's what I mean. It just doesn't seem apparent. Maybe I was missing something, and then I just don't get it. I guess like why they would do they, like you said, do they not want the justice to be blind? Do they don't want it to be impartial? My personal opinion is I don't think that they do. I think they have a set, they have a set parameter, especially when you're dealing with a lot of the caliphates and stuff, across the world. It has nothing to do with blind justice. They have a, supreme, whatever. I don't know how you describe that. Supreme code, I guess. Yeah, like justice or something.
Yeah.
Night Range is saying, is it because the justice system is blind to the danger of the Muslim religion, or the blind justice system defending the Muslim religion?
Yeah, it's hard to say. That
that's a good one.
The skin tone of the hand matches the skin tone of the gal with the hijab. So I'm assuming it's a Muslim male that's with the threatening finger there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe that is what they're saying. Maybe they're saying that, yeah, because justice is blind, justice is protecting that woman, and you need to take off your blindfold because we don't believe the women need to be protected or whatever.
But if that was the case, that would be a white guy's hand, not a Muslim's hand.
Well, no, but he's Pakistan. If this is Pakistan, and they're getting pissed at us for getting somebody using our system against us, maybe. I don't think this doesn't look like an evil Muslim being mean. This looks like somebody who's like, oh my goodness, or like, I'm being.
Yeah, she looks startled or surprised or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't look like she's a lurking evil something. She's just like a victim or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if these little wiggles mean anything. I don't think they do.
Yeah, those are just movement indicators. Now I can't see because of the way the tiles are. Let me wait a minute. Let me blow this up. Maybe that'll help.
There's nothing to it. There's only one. It's just a far side type of thing. This was the only panel.
Well, it looks like the gal with the hijab on or burqa. Well, I think the burqa is just a wrap around the top, and the hijab is the one with the little eye slits. It looks like she's confused as to whether she should be taking hers off as well. Because like with the elbow movement,
Yeah, like she's reaching for hers. Interesting. All right. Well, that has nothing to do with guns. I just couldn't figure it out. And that's what happens when you go on the internet and you find something.
Well, a meme is just like a joke. If you got to explain it, then it's no good. Because you're right. I look at that and I'm saying, wow, what the hell are we supposed to read into that?
And so I can understand like the bad message or something I don't agree with, but this was just so vague. Maybe, like I said, it's just some concept I'm not familiar with so much. How's he saying they don't want women to have equal rights? I'm sure that's something because they're both women. You know, they didn't pick a Muslim guy. First, they don't cover their face. So I don't know. All right, well, that was total sidetrack. Um, didn't do me any good trying to remember whatever we were talking about. It was something about what Psycho was saying earlier, but let me go with something we were talking about, I think, off air, but since it's Monday, um, what do we want to talk about? Funding a little bit and the idea of sponsoring a shop or having a shop or something or a couple of shops that you work with to fund you to do some of the projects. I know people have been talking about traveling to go to like the Gun Rights Policy Conference, for example, and you know, like an industry show or whatever. That's got, you know, its own characteristics or whatever, like its own reasons for a shop to want to send you. You know, if a shop is going to go to SHOT Show to buy their own inventory for the year, they're going to find out, you know, from manufacturers what new products are coming, so they incorporate that into their orders, maybe. Or okay, let's say it's I don't know, you know, they're going to bring a new thing in, first aid kits or survival food, or you know, they talk to somebody at SHOT and they decide to bring in barbecue grills or something. You know, they decide to do something. So that's why gun shops go to SHOT. If you're going to SHOT with cameras and stuff, most gun shops aren't. I mean, some of them might be, but there's potential for a relationship with a shop who, you know, understands what SHOT Show is all about. And if you could go to SHOT Show with cameras and get specific videos of their products, maybe even with them, you know, arrange to hang out with them for a couple of days or something. And if you did that with a couple of shops, you could have 3 shops potentially and still have a date for yourself at SHOT Show. And, you know, arrange to meet up with them and, you know, meet up with the places that they're going to, whatever. There's all different kinds of ways you could do that. So that's something for like SHOT Show, but something for like gun rights policy where there's no money to be made potentially, but there's certainly effort to be made or effort to be accomplished. You know, the idea of having shops that sponsor content creators as we go into the next era. So we've come from the internet being a concept, and then the internet being, you know, thing people have dabbled in or they use email, you know, and they get more convenient with it, and then it's something that they check more regularly for, you know, shopping and then entertainment, and they get their news from it, and then pretty much, you know, they're getting their internet on their phones all the time, and it's pretty much fast, and we can watch pretty much anything we want. We have interactive conversations and stuff. These platforms are leaving. We just spent a while talking about the frustrations of YouTube. You talked about them in other chats all the time. You know, just at some point we're going to let this thing go, and it'll be the next iteration of the web. And I don't think that's necessarily. I don't know if we know what that is necessarily. So I guess going on with that, having relationships with stores gives them a more stable presence on the web and reach because it's not dependent on a YouTube platform or a Facebook platform. So it's not dependent on the people that use that platform or can be reached by that platform. And then if they're in a direct relationship with content creators at the regional or, you know, local level, then again, it doesn't matter what the next thing is. They've got champions on the internet to help them with that. So I'm going to leave it with that concept. I don't know how much we want to jump into this tonight. It's Monday, though, so I figured it might be a good opportunity to talk about that.
Well, I think that there's a lot to unpack here. So, so first of all, anybody that is a content creator that actually makes $1 and goes out and does these things, man, if you're not writing that stuff off, there's something seriously wrong with you. You shouldn't be paying a dime in taxes on any of that money. When I was much younger and I had a computer consulting business on the side, the whole purpose of that business was for me to write off all the gear that I was going to buy anyway. So that worked out great. But I agree that you have to separate yourself off from the ad revenues and the stuff in the platforms, because it's just too easy for them to manipulate us. And things like Patreon and tip jars. Got one of the ham guys uses a tip jar, and that's apparently built into some of the software that he uses, like a PayPal thing. These are the ways to find out. Let your real audience support you if you're a content creator. Now, if you're doing other stuff, if you're doing merchandising and things like that, how many T-shirts can a guy buy? That kind of stuff. I don't know. When you have the latest greatest thing, I have a hard time speaking to that, because you guys have never seen me wear a T-shirt with words on it, right? Because I'm just not that kind of guy. I wear regular shirts, and I don't like T-shirts that with printing and stuff on them, because they just annoy me. I got drawers and drawers full of them. I wear them very rarely. But certainly, if you have a symbiotic relationship with a manufacturer or a distributor or something, you need to leverage those relationships. And I think you can do that without being a shill, as long as you're honest and upfront, and you say, hey, I do get paid by these guys, or they do send me samples. People just want to know what they're dealing with. So I think going to these conferences and stuff, that ought to be a writable expense. Like Tim, when Tim went to the to NRAM there, I sure hope the hell he wrote that off.
Well, all right, but every project potentially that's like small business advice, sure. But I guess I was thinking more of the concept of small business. So gun shops needing advocates on the web, and most of us having abilities that, let's say if a shop went out and tried to have somebody videotape their shop for some reason, to do a big YouTube video, they'd have to just go to some marketing agency and pay out the nose for that, a lot of money. And they're probably not. Well, I know that from my experience, they're not. I mean, when shops I've worked with have had radio shows and radio channels and television and stuff, they don't know the subject matter, so they say things wrong. It just it's awkward. They don't know stuff. So anyway, it can be, I don't know, kind of reach they even get with that kind of stuff. So anyway, anybody else? So I mean, I guess I hear what you're saying as far as that. All those things are valid, and they're definitely, I agree with you on all of them, actually. But they're good.
Right, but you're really coming at it more from the advocacy point of view, or just having a more informed representative. I mean, like one of the things we're actually talking about is there's a coalition of what do you call it, gun ranges and sportsmen's clubs and stuff that they're trying to put together here in Connecticut to actually pay paid lobbyists to correctly state our point of view for our congressmen and senators. And I know it's a tangential to what you're talking about, but it has some of the same elements in that we want people who are immersed in the gun culture, who understand and can speak correctly about this and dispel some of the myths and screwed up stuff that comes from the other side. And if you're not doing it for the thing I have with, like, if you have a gun show and stuff, it's really like advertising, right? I mean, the whole deal, you're really advertising for them, and it's what used to be word of mouth, but now it's word of platform. And a lot of these shops don't realize what they're missing, the reach that they could have, and the audience they could reach if they were to leverage some people that are key on these platforms. And wouldn't it be nice to have a more, I use the word formal just because I can't think of a better word right off the top of my head. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to have a more formal way of approaching some of these shops and saying, hey, here's a service we can do for you and it helps us both because it helps get more people immersed in the gun culture, and it also gives you free advertising and gets eyes on your shop and that kind of thing. Is that closer to where you were going?
Yeah, I would dig in a little bit more because the views and everything are neat, but not everybody has views to offer yet. So reciprocal links and establishing some presence on the web and having an advocate out there would be all I would add to that. But yeah, exactly. The idea that for something like a SHOT Show, if you're attending that, then you got some, like you're saying, some more like hands-on potential to really do work for them. And you can batch that, go to SHOT Show again, work with them for a day, and you could get easily 12 months worth of, once a month type of videos taken in a one day at SHOT Show. Again, if they're going to be bringing a new product on board, or they're going to be the only place in town that has such and such product, then getting some footage with them, or if they get their own footage, anyway, working with them in all different kinds of ways. But then for these other things, yeah, you'd be effectively an advertisement, like a sponsor, the same way that they might sponsor a single action shooting match or a 4-H event, or maybe like a sheriff's fundraiser or something. Things that, these are things that any small business is going to do as an advertising slash, being part of the community type of efforts. Lower? Nothing?
Well, he's got AFK up a few minutes ago, so I think he may not be right where we think he is.
What do you think, Gary?
Well, I think a lot of the things we miss at these shows is we record videos and we put them out oftentimes well after the show is over, where I think sometimes you might have the opportunity of hitting them up and getting them online as soon as possible and say, visit this booth, booth number 1, 2, 3, 4 or something like that. They're going to be here Saturday and Sunday. Come by, and you can actually move traffic over to certain booths and stuff like that and help their, the public get to them. Here's what they got. Here's what you're missing. Come see this, rather than just patronize this business later, which is all fine and good. But I think we could do a little bit of both and help out the people.
I agree. It's a lot more difficult when you have a time constrained event like a show.
Yeah, because you almost have to get there first thing in order to help them out a lot in that respect. And it's awful hard right at the beginning of the show to even get into record anything because they're busy, obviously. That's their busiest time. So it's kind of it's difficult to do. I know at Wanamaker last time I did try to get at least 1 or 2 out that day just for that reason, so people could get over to that booth and check out what they have, because you've got so many choices. You may not know. I didn't know this was here. Where is it? Well, it's in the northeast corner, something like that, and they could beat a path right to it. Just kind of food for thought there.
Right on. So out there, they're talking about Illinois. Ozzy was saying that they shot down the appeal so that they cannot ban guns in Deerfield. So what do you think, Cycle? Maybe in another court.
Yeah, hold on a second. I need to unmute myself here. I make so much noise in the background that I mute myself when I'm not talking. So first of all, it's an appeals court, right? So I assume that means that the ruling was either handed down by a state Supreme Court. If it's a second court of appeals, it's probably not the circuit court for that. So that, I mean, what's going to happen is they're just going to appeal it back up to the next one. But and the important thing is, if it does get, remember, SCOTUS doesn't typically get involved unless it's a progressive issue. SCOTUS doesn't typically get involved unless there are two circuit courts that come up with different answers to the same basic question of law. And now you've got one circuit court saying yes, it's good, or the other circuit court saying no, it's bad. And now you appeal up to the state Supreme Court and you say, make this happen. This is one of the reasons we keep having this problem where, like that latest case that went up about the silencers, the suppressors. They brought that to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court refused to hear it. And one of the reasons they refused to hear it is because, again, it was only one circuit court that made a ruling one way, and they didn't have a conflicting decision to weigh in on. And they didn't want to, unfortunately, they didn't want to take it just on the basis of the Second Amendment infringement. And that's the difficulty that we're having with this stuff. Is it's really getting hard to see how those guys are going to jump. I personally, just speaking for my perception of my own state has the opinion, we don't give a shit if it's constitutional or not. We're going to pass a law. We'll see you in court, and maybe you'll live long enough to see something happen. So a lot of, especially in the blue states, they use the power of time and the power of money against us very effectively. And it's the law, and if you're law abiding, you follow the law. And if you're not law abiding, well, you just hope you don't get caught. So I mean, you guys know I'm a little bit disappointed, and SCOTUS is supposed to be when it comes to individual rights, the ultimate defenders of our individual rights is the Supreme Court. I mean, they are the guys that are supposed to go read the Constitution and say, does this fit what the Constitution says, and its intent, its original intent, or doesn't it? And I think they've been doing a terrible, terrible job. And I can't believe we can't even get them to take up some of this stuff. But maybe we'll get lucky, and I mean, Ruth is getting pretty old, and she's probably, I don't wish her ill or anything, but I think she's getting to the point now where she's having a hard time performing the office, and that would give us the 5-4 that we need to get some of these things on the docket.
No, I can't say I'm a strategist there, but with Trump there whispering in their ear and sending stuff, I don't know.
Yeah, you got to wonder. I mean, I heard a rumor. I have not confirmed it, but I heard a rumor that Trump sent the Supreme Court a thing saying, please don't take up the suppressor case. Because right. I think he's getting ready to go tell the ATF, outlaw these things. And that is exactly what is not supposed to happen. That is 100% what the three-legged stool. The executive is not supposed to write. The executive is not supposed to be influencing the Supreme Court with political bullshit. So we'll see. I don't know. People are people. That's the biggest problem. Is it's not like they're gods or anything, and it's not like just because a person becomes a Supreme Court justice, he totally divorces himself from the rest of humanity and says, "Hey, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna just totally bury myself in the Constitution. I'm gonna totally ignore the people that put me in this chair in the first place." So we have to remember that people are people, and they do have other motivations besides the altruistic search for justice.
And why should it be? You can actually get along so differently. That works.
Well, I mean, it's a good idea, right? A lot of things are good ideas, but you know, human nature is the law of unintended consequences. I mean, everybody thought it was a great idea that we should vote for our senators, right? But there was a reason why we didn't do that, and we now see the terrible fallout from the fact that individual people vote for senators, and senators have to pound the stump now, and it's become all of these representative positions have become full-time jobs that pay really well. you know so, 107. I know Alexandria, what's her name, Cortez, is having a hard time making it on $170,000 a year. I feel real bad for her, but but the whole object of the game was this was supposed to be a duty, a civic obligation, but it wasn't supposed to be a full-time job. You come in, you spend a couple of months making laws, and you go back to the farm, or whatever your pursuit was, your business. But I think it's good. I mean, every time an appeals court says, nope, that's unconstitutional, it is, even the challenge itself is good for us because it gets people talking about this stuff, and you get the reasoning and whatever paperwork they write, the opinions that they write about these things, and you can use those as fodder for other stuff. But there are a couple circuits that are just, the ninth that handles California, and I don't remember if Connecticut's the fourth or the second, but they're just, they're political tools, and you can't. It's difficult to look to them for this stuff.
All right. Well, now we're talking bigger issue than whatever we started with. Clover, are you back yet? Left us. So, any other topics for tonight? Anybody been in any other new gun shops?
No, not yet.
No, I haven't either.
We have started shooting, but the weather's not cooperating again. We lost a match again middle of last week because it was raining again, and it's supposed to rain again tomorrow. But it's been tough. I still got to get that P38 out. I want to, the one I got in Tulsa the last time. I really would like to do a quick video on that because that's a sweet little gun. We'll get that out there.
Well, haven't had much chatter out there in a while. It says we got 18 viewers, but I think everybody's falling asleep. Where's gone? Let's see.
Tomorrow. Yeah, you got on the air pretty crisply tonight too. You've run about an hour.
Yeah,
you're doing pretty well.
So tomorrow's Tuesday. We got Dead Horse will be doing the early watch. I'm shooting today, so he'll be there for tomorrow for the early watch. Then he does the daily show or the daily lobbies after that. Then Ghost will have his Tuesday show. Night Strike was out there earlier. I don't know if he's still out there. He does his Hit or Miss show on Tuesdays. And Sandhills does 2A Tuesday. And then we'll be back tomorrow. So there's quite a bit of stuff tomorrow to listen to, watch, participate in, be part of. And I guess that's about it. You're not back yet, Clover? Just yanking it. You guys remember back when we had these live chats and Yankee would show up, join, and then just leave and have his camera pointed at his chair?
I remember Bob falling asleep.
Bob would fall asleep once in a while, but for a long time there, Yankee's chair was just like a part of the chats. He would always jump in and then walk away, and his chair would just be there. Nobody'd kick him out. I don't know if you could kick people out back in the old days. But it was always annoying,
That's fun.
especially when you'd be gone for like an hour or more, and then somebody else wanted to jump in or something. But anyway, it was a thing back in the day, saying you're a Yankees chair. All right, well, I guess that's it. So thanks everybody for showing up. Listen to us in the middle of the night, and give us some feedback for listening to the show later, so we know you're out there. And if you want to give us any insight onto the topics we talked about, feel free. We'll talk about them later. Thanks, guys, for showing up and being part of the panel.
Thank you, sir. Have a good afternoon.